Another amazing audio interface from MOTU. Today we are checking out the 848, the latest audio interface from MOTU, and this joins the 16A and the 828 in their refreshed line of studio interfaces. These are fantastic interfaces that share a lot of attributes, but there are some differences as well that we'll be getting into. Now I'm going to give you an overview of the 848 today for a really deep dive, especially of the software that goes with this, CueMix Pro. Check out the video I did on the 16A because that has a lot of information for you. Like the MOTU 16A, the 848 is a Thunderbolt 4 audio interfaces, and this has some distinct advantages, not least of which is speeds up to 40 gigabits per second. And actually the way this works is when you connect it up to your host, whether a computer or an iPad, it'll automatically figure out the fastest speed it can operate at and set itself up accordingly, whether that's Thunderbolt 4, USB4, USB 3, or even USB 2. There are two Thunderbolt 4 ports on the back, and again, those support USB as well. The first one connects to your host computer or iPad. The second one can be hooked up to additional peripherals, whether it's a monitor or whatever it might be. And that second Thunderbolt 4 port offers 15 watts of charging power as well for connected peripherals. But you can also connect the 848 up to an AVB network. In fact, there's a built-in AVB switch with two ports. And with this stack of gear that I have here, I've got the 16A connected to the 848 by AVB. We'll be looking at how that works later when we check out the CueMix Pro software. And like the 16A and the 828 actually, the 848 can work as a standalone optical expander with another audio interface, and that's the way I have the 828 connected here on the bottom. So I've got the 848 as my primary audio interface. The 16A is connected by AVB, and the 828 is connected by optical, routing 16 channels back and forth through dual banks of optical connections. We've got MOTU's beautiful 3.9-inch color TFT display here, and that gives us a lot of options. You can actually operate everything that you need right here from the front panel using the menu control, selecting, going back, and so on. We also have complete control over the 4 microphone preamps that are built into this audio interface. We've got a pad, we've got 48-volt phantom power, and those can accept microphone, line, or instrument level signals. Now preamps 3 and 4 also have an analog insert point, so you can connect external gear, whether it be a compressor, EQ, whatever you might want to connect in there. If you're not using those insert points with the preamps, they can serve as 2 returns for additional line level inputs. In addition to the 4 mic, line, or instrument level inputs, we also have 8 balanced line inputs on this, and these have fantastic specs, 120 dB dynamic range and minus 114 dB THD plus noise. We've got 12 balanced outs, and those use the ESS Sabre 32 DAC. Now this gives us 125 dB dynamic range, as well as minus 114 dB THD plus noise. Fantastic specs with the 848. Those outputs are DC coupled, so you can use those for control voltages, and you have 99 dB of trim capability in 1 dB steps. The 848 is fully set up with control room functionality. You can have 3 sets of monitors, and as we'll see, you can also have a monitor group that can control up to 7.1.4 Atmos rigs. Now let's jump over to the CueMix Pro software, and we'll take a closer look at some of the features that are inside the 848. When you open up CueMix Pro, you'll be presented with the discovery page, which shows you the devices that you have connected. I've got my 848, and then my 16A is connected by AVB. Now the 828 that I have here is connected by optical, so it's not going to show up as a device here, but of course we can still access its inputs and outputs because it's serving as a straight-ahead optical expander. Now we choose the device that we want to work on, click Home, and we can see the primary features for that. Here we've got our monitor control, level control. We can assign which of the outputs are part of that monitor group, and they'll be managed by that same volume control or the front panel volume control. We can also see our dual headphone outputs, which are on the front panel. They have their own volume control here on the front, and we can assign a separate source for each one of those. And as we'll see when we look at the mixer, each one can have its own independent mix as well. We can store and recall presets of our configuration, and we've got talkback capability as well. We can assign the source for that if we like. Next, we'll look at the device settings. This is where we set up our sample rate, our clock source, word clock, AVB streams, and so on. When we look at our inputs, we've got our 4 microphone inputs, 48-volt phantom power, a pad, polarity invert. We've also got our line level inputs, and again, we have up to 99 dB of trim on each one of those. An interesting feature of the 848, as well as in the 16A, is that the first bank of optical in and out can be either ADAT or stereo toslink, and you assign that here. And that's separately assignable per input or output. So you could have 2-channel TOS coming in and 8-channel ADAT going out. We have a similar screen for setting up our outputs. And we have our patch bay. Now this is a very cool feature that we saw with CueMix Pro when we were looking at the 16A, but this allows us to graphically route any of our sources, our inputs and so on, to any of our destinations. That can be a device, which means a hardware input or output. It could be from the mixer, which we'll look at in just a second. It could be a network connection, which in our case here, we've got the first AVB stream coming from our 16A. And then of course you have your feeds from your host DAW software. Same thing with the destinations. You can have a hardware output, we could output to the mixer internally, we could send to the AVB network, or we can send straight into the DAW host. A new feature in CueMix Pro is the new routing grid. Now this was available in some of the versions earlier, but now they've brought it back and made it even more powerful. One of the things you can do is set whether you want the destinations on the left, or actually you can put them on the right. Or I should say opposite, on the right. But across the top we have our sources arrayed here, and then we have our destinations arrayed here. And when we open one of these up, say we look at our host inputs, we can see what is connected to what. So we've got microphone instrument input 1 is feeding into host input 1. We've got our line inputs here as well. So line level 5 is going into host input 5. So this is how you route all those signals back and forth, whether you want to use the patch bay or the equivalent is the routing grid here, whichever one works best. When you're doing a very complex routing, it may be easier to see it here in the grid, but I have to admit it's a lot of fun to use the patch bay with those cables that you can just drag and drop. As we saw with the 16A, we've got a very full-featured DSP-based mixer here for the 848. Everything's running internally on DSP. We have processing, we have double precision EQ, we have reverb and so on. But we've got all the channels arrayed here. We can choose what we're looking at. We can hide different things, turn them on and off. We've got our buses, different sections of the console, settings, EQ. You can hide and show different things, the compressors there, sends, returns, and so on. We've also got all of our aux mixes as well. There's our buses, and here's where we assign what's on the faders. So here we're looking at our main outputs 1 and 2, which would be basically our monitor mix. We can change to look at aux 1 and 2, which is a stereo, aux 3 and 4, aux 5 and 6, or we've got some of these set as mono, aux 15 for example. So those can all be independent mixes that can feed different destinations, whether it's the headphone outputs, any of the line level outputs, or wherever you want to send those. Now remember that we've got our 16A connected via AVB, so we've created an AVB network here just with these 2 pieces of gear, nothing else required, because that AVB switch is built right in. So if we select that, we'll jump back to our device page. We can set up all of its settings here. So I'm getting its clock, for example, from the AVB stream coming from the 848. We have access to input and output settings, patch bay, routing, mixing, and so on. So over AVB, because CueMix Pro is actually an AVB controller, we can access all those features here as well. But I really want to keep your focus on this amazing 848. With 4 mic preamps, it's very versatile in the studio. You could use it for obviously any number of different applications. And we've still got those 8 line level inputs as well, up to 12 channel outputs. And those can be a 12 channel monitoring rig for Atmos, or a stereo rig, or 3 sets of stereo monitors, 2 sets of monitors and a sub, however you want to set all of that up. 2 headphone outputs. All of the connectivity here is top notch. The specs are fantastic. And this is an interface that's going to serve as a fantastic hub for your recording studio, or for a live rig for that matter, controlled via the CueMix Pro software. To learn more about the 848 or the 16A, the 828, or any of MOTU's products, head over to sweetwater.com, or better yet, contact your Sweetwater sales engineer and they can help you figure out exactly which one is going to be the best hub for your studio.